Hello and welcome back, and that is right, today we are revisiting the subject of Plex Media Server on the Ts-453E, but with a twist. We are looking at just 4K media. For those that aren't aware, I have visited this NAS before and done some Plex tests. I've done it over on the blog, where you can detail a lot of the information about the test that we've done, a lot of information about what exactly to look for, its strengths, its weaknesses, and more. On top of that, I've also done a video there in the background where I bench tested a whole range of different resolutions, file types, compressions, and formats as well. But today's video is in response to a lot of people that over the years while I've been doing these Plex tests have raised that I don't cover a lot of 4K media. Now, a lot of that is to do with the fact that I've been running these tests now for well over 3.5 years, and in that time, you know, the standard rate of media that most of us own has changed quite substantially. And although I do include 4K files in my current range of Plex Media Server tests, I think it would be fair to say they are not really kind of representative of modern 4K media. When I do look at 4K media in my tests, we zoom down to the bottom of the screen here, you're able to see that what I test is, these jellyfish files that are between 120 and 400 megabits per second. This is outlandishly large, but I include it for future proofing. But realistically, when I selected these files several years ago, things haven't got that far yet, and indeed the majority of even high dense media you find in 4K that you can buy at Google Play, on Amazon, or any kind of online service normally sticks around 30 to 80 megabits per second in terms of its bitrate. So in today's tests, I'm only going to be looking at 4K that caps out at that size. I've got 10 or 11 different files that I'm going to be testing, some of which are designed for bench testing new definition TV, some of which have been designed for trailers, and in some cases the trailer has been released at a higher quality than you can buy these days over the counter. So that's really what we're going for here, and we're utilizing that brand new Qnap Ts-453E, which runs on both 8 gig of memory by default and a quad-core Intel Celeron J6412, which has onboard integrated graphics, which means, you guessed it, we have got transcoding on board if we choose, and that's hardware transcoding with a Plex pass. However, we're not looking at transcoding today. If you want to talk about transcoding, head over to that article in the description or check out that video from before. Today we are looking at exclusively 4K playback, and the only time you're going to see transcoding mentioned here is when we're running certain file formats where transcoding or re-encoding is forced. Now, we've got Plex up here, we're going to ignore the files we normally test, and this time going down to the Ts-453E, we're going to be looking at these 4K files. We've got 3 files which we use to bench test HD and UHD 4K TVs, and all of these trailers here that we're going to run for about a minute or so. On the right hand side of the screen, you're going to be able to see the performance of this server, and we're mainly looking at the CPU. We might glance at the memory, but that's really a kind of a casual look we're going to have on that one. The main thing we're looking at is CPU utilization, where we want to see how much raw power is going to be used by the system to play back these files. Now, I will casually mention the difference sometimes between, say, formats such as H.264 and HEVC, but if you want to hear more about what that actually means, as well as the bitrate and differences between them, again, head over to the article in the description where it goes into way more detail about what these all mean, about different compression techniques, which are supported and why. I'm just going to pause that in the background and head over to the test. And our first test is going to be with this file here at the top, Into the Cave of Wonders. Okay, so let's kick things off. This file here that we're going to be looking at first, the Into the Cave of Wonders, is a 4K file. It's H.264, so no re-encoding is needed, and it's running at just 12 megabits per second, which is lovely and light and casual, and it's an MP4, so it's going to be even smoother of a native playback. On the bottom of the screen, we'll be able to see the quality that's being played through, And we're running and doing this right now with OBS recording here on my laptop. You may hear the fan on my laptop ramping up from time to time. Also, we can take a look casually every now and then at the utilization of my host machine, and as you can see, things are absolutely fine. It's just, as usual, Chrome and OBS eating up all of my memory like it's going out of fashion. But right now, we can see not only is the file playing back fine, but on the top of the screen there, we're able to see there, utilization is still very conservative, very easy, nothing really to be concerned with there. If we go down to the bottom, things are playing back absolutely fine. Encoding is going to be smaller on these denser files. There's no avoiding it. That is going to be a feature of this playback. It can't really be avoided simply because of the density of these files and only how much it's prepared to encode. So unlike on my 1080p testing, you're not going to see that dark orange where things are being buffered and ready going into too much detail there. We're just going to run that for a little bit longer, but for now it's going to go straight into that transition of the effect, and what we're going to do is skip forward to see if there's any delay. No delays whatsoever, and again, no difficulty there with the CPU being shown to us. Let's come out of that file there, and next up we're going to look at Roast Duck. It's another file, but this time it is a denser file at 60 megabits per second. It's a much higher bit rate, and it's an HEVC, which once again means as HEVC licensing is a lot more complex than that of H.264, which is more common, even though it's a more efficient codec, the result is that this system, much like a lot of hardware clients and hardware media servers, are going to have to immediately re-encode that file. So let's play that file now. We're going in at the bottom, open up that. It's going to have to do the conversion as mentioned into an H.264 playable format. But again, things are running smooth as custard. This is a very short one, and you will see the difference in that increased bit rate, by the way, as this plays. Hopefully this will translate across in production after I've edited this video down. But again, running absolutely fine, and this video genuinely makes me hungry every single time I've had to edit it, and it's really annoying because right now it's like 11 AM, and I think it's a little bit too early for this kind of food, but trust me, if I had it in front of me, I'd absolutely smash it. But right now, that's running absolutely fine. Ignore that beep in the background. That's another NAS doing another task for another video. But for now, that's an absolute success for me there. Next up, another video there. Again, lower bit rate. This is going to be a 30 megabits per second, but still an HEVC file. And this is Beauty of Taiwan. So just going to go ahead and play that one there. So again, if there's one big takeaway from this video thus far, if you have been watching my Plex videos in the past, you'll know that this just shows you a lot of these NASes that I've been testing with denser 4K media. When it comes to more domestic class 4K, things do seem to run a great deal better. You're still going to need a CPU with embedded graphics because 4K, even in less dense file formats like these 30 and 12 megabits per second bitrate files, they're still going to need a decent amount of GPU handling, OpenGL, graphical, 3D, multimedia, transcode, call it what you will, even transcoding engines. The fact still remains, you're going to need the hardware on that CPU, otherwise the raw hardware utilization for this is just not going to be up to snuff, something that I think will play out when we repeat some of these 4K Plex tests on non-embedded graphics processors. But for now, things seem to be running fine there, and we can skip forward. There's a slight delay there, the orange circle, but still, things are absolutely fine for us there. Nothing to worry about. So we can come out of that one there and go into the first of our movie trailer files. This is Wonder Woman 1984, and again, this is an H.264 file running at 60 megabits per second, an MP4 file. This should run smooth as custard. Let's go ahead and play that file now. Open that up there at the bottom. And we're going straight into that trailer running in native codec there, 16.5 megabits per second I should say, but still a nice 4K easy domestic class file that you would purchase over the counter or run from a Blu-ray. We are seeing that spike there on the right hand side of the screen, and a lot of that is to do with, in some cases, the audio quality. While that plays out in the background, let me explain. The file test that we're running, although the video density increases, what you do find with a lot of 4K media that you buy is the audio quality is significantly better a lot of the time. And when we get into the IMAX files, that will become even more prevalent. But you do notice that because of the increase in a lot of the audio quality, the result is that it is an even denser job for some CPUs to handle. And that's where embedded graphics is slightly less useful overall. And that's when you need a CPU that is just a bit of a tank to get the job done. But for now, absolutely fine. We can skip forward, running perfectly fine. And I think we can come out of that there. That, for me, was a success. Next, we're going to go on a Dune trailer. This is the Ultra HD file for Dune. And again, from there, this is an H.265 file. So again, we're going to need compression. But it's a 10-bit HDR as well. Run at 16 megabits per second. So let's play that file now. We'll get that up at the bottom. Have a little look while it converts, of course. And again, this is another one with a very dense audio stream there by comparison. A very big file. So we're probably going to see that CPU utilization just raise a little bit there, unsurprisingly, while we go ahead. Nothing too crazy, but definitely some suitable stuff for us to keep an eye on here. But it's playing fine, no drop in frame rate. And I wish I could play the audio for you, but obviously, because of the YouTube bots and copyright and videos getting copyright infringed, it's a minefield. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go with these files muted, which is a real shame. But for now, it's running fine. We're not seeing too much work from the CPU. We can skip forward. Going to see that slight delay there as we skip ahead, but overall still absolutely fine there. But for now, still running good, nothing too harmful happening to the CPU. I'm going to call that a success. Next, we're going to go for Spider-Man No Way Home. This is our first IMAX trailer. This is Ultra HD 4K, and this is 8-bit, so again not 10-bit HDR, but it's still 32 megabits per second bitrate, and it's an MKV, so expect a bit of a spike there, but still playing natively on H.264. So we can go for that there, open that up at the bottom. And again, another dense audio file there. Again, we're not going to introduce any kind of transcoding here. If there's any drop in frame rate there, a lot of that, unless I highlight the drop in frame rate there in front of you, assume that that is OBS and the capture that we're going for. If there's a recognized issue in any frame rate drops with what I'm seeing on screen, I'll highlight it to you. But for now, a little bit of CPU spike there, nothing too groundbreaking there for us. But again, moving forward, we can go ahead at the bottom, running fine. No difficulties. We're seeing the slight encode buffer, but nothing too crazy. Let's skip forward to the 2-minute mark. And again, still absolutely fine. Tiniest delay while we flick forward. Nothing too harmful happening. The CPU's obviously reacting just like it did with the initial playback, but still absolutely fine. This is, you know, slightly bigger than most domestic files I would see, but nothing too crazy. So let's come out of that one and move into our next trailer. This is Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, a great file to test, but a terrible film to watch. Again, 4K trailer here, non-UHD, but 32 megabits per second and original native playback there at 8-bit. This should run absolutely fine there. We can open that up, playing it in the original. Again, another dense audio format there. We'll have a little look, and again, it's those denser audio formats that I think are becoming more of a, a hurdle there for the TS-453E, if at all, than anything. It's still able to play that file absolutely fine, and that denser quality, and certainly compared to our testing originally when we were using that huge 400 megabit file there, but still, file running fine. I'm going to give that a big old tick from me. We can skip forward there, go to later on, we're going to see a slight delay there. Spin circle, but still things are running fine, and for me I'm going to call that a solid success for us there overall. And come out of that there into the last 4 of our test files. This is the Batman. This is a 4K trailer, original native 264, 8-bit, 32 megabits per second, and this is our last 32 megabits per second H.264 file, I believe. So again, we can go ahead and play that immediately there. Running in the original, and again we've got going for PCM stereo here, and again you can change that audio stream if you choose, because there's multiple streams encoded inside, but we're going to leave that as native there. Leaving that there on screen, letting the trailer run and do its thing. And for now, gotta say, happy with what I'm seeing here. We saw the initial spike there as mentioned, but nothing too taxing to be going on with there. And again, this 4K file running like a dream there. No problems. Let's go ahead with the skip forward. if we wanted to go ahead within the production and let encoding and buffering catch up. Not encoding, I should say, just catch up there and streaming there with the blocks. But still, absolutely fine, no difficulty, and it's still staying ahead of the playback. Once again, a solid success there. Next, we'll make our way onto Black Panther. This is Wakanda Forever trailer. This is the 4K Ultra HD, but this is also an H.265 HEVC file, so compression needed. 10-bit HDR at 32 megabits per second. A decent chunk of a file. Bring that up at the bottom. We're having the conversion, of course, and we're not changing any of the audio streams. We're leaving it at that because it's locked in to the H.265. Things are running fine there at the bottom. We're looking on the right hand side of the screen, and the CPU has been taxed less than I anticipated it happening. Not too shabby there as we move along, and the CPU doing absolutely fine there. Ignore that slow-mo, that is part of the trailer. We can skip forward. Have a little look there. We've got the slight delay there in the middle of the screen, but still everything's running at a very reasonable pace with absolutely nothing to be concerned with there. Overall, absolutely box tick for me. Let's come out of it there and make our way into our last two files. The next one is Avengers Endgame. This is another IMAX 4K trailer. This is denser than a lot of the versions that most of you have got at home if you've got this film. It is a native 264 playback, but it's going to be 40 megabits per second bitrate on this MKV massive file. So let's go ahead and play it. Let's have a little look, bring up the quality there at the bottom, playing in the original. We're using PCM media there. Again, we could have switched between a digital theatre, but again, we'll leave that there running at the bottom. Things are running fine. We did see a spike there, but again, nothing too hair-raising, and it would still allow us to run a couple of versions of this. Remember, hardware transcoding is a big part of this. If we didn't have hardware transcoding in a lot of this stuff, because even though the audio, the video format in this case is running fine, that hardware transcoding engine and indeed embedded graphics engine are going to be crucial for 4K streaming on a lot of devices, native or not. But for now, let's skip forward. Slight delay, of course, as we move along into the presentation, but things are running absolutely fine there, and overall can't fault it. We're still seeing that spike, once again repeating itself, but nothing too hair-raising, and we can come out there. Which brings us to our final file. This is Top Gun Maverick. This is an IMAX 4K native 265, but still 10-bit and an 80 megabits per second file. This is the densest one that we're going to go for in today's video, and I should highlight that in a lot of the mid-range Celeron powered 4Bs, this has been the kicker. This file is the one that wasn't playable. So I've not tested it on this system yet. Let's see what happened. Let's play that file now. Open up at the bottom, and again, digital theatre, a digital theatre quality there, huge audio quality as well. Seeing that spinning circle there, we're seeing the spike there higher than it's been up to this point. We can have a look at my hardware resources there. They're running fine there, so there's no difficulty with regards to the local streaming system. But again, I think we are definitely finding that that 80 megabit file is the backbreaker for a lot of these mid-range Celeron powered systems. And I think this is the defining moment when people have to start looking at the likes of going for an Intel Pentium or maybe an i3, or going for a GPU graphics card installation. Now what we can do while it's trying to play back that file, because again, even if it does play back this file, I think most users wouldn't wait this long to play a file. Let's go for the automatic conversion. And what we're going to do is allow the system to use its hardware resources to convert this file to a potentially playable version. And as you can see, now it can play back this file. But unfortunately, I'm still going to count this as a fail, because even though we are now watching this file, and clearly we're still watching it in 4K as well, it's not appropriate to what we're doing. And for me, it's not counting as successful playback of this file. But ultimately, with the exception of this file, this has been, in my eyes, a complete success through and through. And I do recommend the TS-453E for 4K domestic media if you do have a big old collection that you want to stream on Plex Media server. Now, there's going to be a written guide to this, as well as comparisons between this and other NASs using the new 4K test scheme coming up very, very soon. So do stay tuned for that. We've got other QNAPs being tested. We're going to retest not all of the NASs from the past, but certainly a lot of the more popular devices. So do stay tuned for that. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Click like if you've enjoyed this video, subscribe to learn more, and do read the guides for some of the 1080p and detailed test schematics of those jellyfish files linked in the description, as well as, if you can, re-watch the TS-453E 1080p tests and heavy 4K tests for a better understanding of just what this NAS is capable of in Plex. Use the links in the description to all of the resources and where to buy the products from today to help out the channel, of course, and of course use the free advice section over on NAS Compares and Ask NAS Compares below. Other than that, I'll see you next time.